essentially Palm has invented the smartphone category. However, there are essentially there are forces in the world, most notably Microsoft, who decided to build an operating system of their own, called it Windows Mobile. Essentially, it is an unknown core operating system with a Windows interface over the top. Now, because they built it to integrate so seamlessly with their network and their software, which is primarily enterprise-centric, they've always been enterprise-centric. I think they will always be enterprise-centric. I don't think they've really ever had an idea for what the consumer market really wants. The reason Windows is on every PC is because they took over the business market, and then everybody else followed because they really didn't have a choice. And yes, the Mac is a choice, but we need to understand that a lot of people cannot afford it. The same happened in the Windows mobile world. In the mobile world, Microsoft essentially came out with Windows Mobile and had eclipsed Palm to the point where they had started making hardware. They were still building their Trios, but they were putting a much more heavy focus on Windows Mobile than they were their own OS. This has been the case now for some time. Enter Apple with the iPhone. They've pretty much taken, I wouldn't say they've taken over the market, but they've certainly made a huge dent where Microsoft was with Windows Mobile. Windows Mobile, the corporate support is not quite there yet in terms of completely taking it over in the enterprise, but for general consumers, definitely. It is a lot easier to use. Heck, it's even got a built-in screen reader for accessibility purposes. But that's just one of the alternatives to Windows Mobile. There's another one, and that is the WebOS from Palm. This is the successor to OS 5, which I don't remember the name of it, the classic Palm OS. I guess WebOS is what was supposed to be Palm OS 6 Cobalt. Palm OS 6 Cobalt was going to be just a refreshing, not a complete redo. So Palm sat down. Apparently what they did was they nabbed John Rubinstein. Well, I didn't say they nabbed him. Kind of silly sounding. They offered him the position of to come work for Palm. He for those of you who do not know who John Rubinstein is, he is a former Apple engineer. Worked on the iMac and as well as the iPod. So he went to work for Palm, and you know, they came out with the Pre, and the WebOS is nice, but it still has a long way to go to catch up with the iPhone. But it's certainly these two have made a dent in the Windows Mobile market. Then we've got a third dent in the Windows Mobile market, and that would be Android. Android is a Linux-based OS, just like WebOS. The difference is that Android has been out for a little bit longer, and because of its truly open environment, you have literally millions of people working on it. Now, I'm not saying Palm OS is not open, WebOS is not open. It is. Palm just has yet to release the software development kit for it. Once that happens, I think we'll see a lot of applications bloom on it. So those are three alternatives to Windows Mobile. And all three of them run Unix, and two of the three run Linux. And what I mean by, excuse me, I'm sorry, I misspoke. They're based on Unix, okay? OS X on the iPhone, based on Unix. Linux for WebOS, based on Unix. Linux for Android, based on Unix. Believe it or not, I believe Windows Mobile might be, now note, might be based on Unix. And this came from, I believe Root Bryan was talking to me about this. He suspects it is because Windows Mobile happens to be far more stable than Windows on the desktop, but search me. Anyway, those are three alternatives. There actually is a fourth. And the fourth one has only been really evident to AT&T customers and those who are willing to go ahead and pay a little extra for an unlocked phone. because AT&T is the only carrier to actually have one. I'm talking about the Nokia E71X. The E71X is a candy bar style phone, very, very much geared toward the corporate towards the corporate enterprise market. In fact, PhoneArena.com said the corporate US would find it very, very appealing. They gave it a 10 out of 10. Everybody else, the Christian Dior, the average Joe, and the high-tech geek like myself, they gave it a 1 out of 10. And the nice thing about the E71X in particular is the fact that it's $99 on contract. I've never seen anything that's a non-Windows Mobile device that's cheaper. But the operating system that it runs is what most people don't realize. It's called Symbian. And much like GSM is standard in the rest of the world, so is Symbian. Symbian is an operating system. It's proprietary. I do believe there's going to be a version, or is a version. Wikipedia didn't say anything about this, but I heard something about an upcoming version of Symbian that's supposed to be based on Linux. Symbian is open. Okay, it's a proprietary kernel, but it is an open operating environment. There are millions of applications for it. Nokia have taken over Symbian, which means that if you want a Symbian operating system device, it's going to have to be a Nokia device. The E series, the N series, both of those run Symbian. There are even some 6000 series phones that run Symbian as well, for the general consumer. But Symbian is just like Windows Mobile. There are several key differences to it, though. One of which is that it's a heck of a lot more battery efficient. The number one triumph of the E71X in the reviews that I saw was the battery life. Another plus is that it's extremely stable. It's very stable. And a third one is for Mac users. It syncs with iSync right out of the box, and it comes with all your standard stuff that you'd expect from Windows Mobile. It comes with Quick Office, which is your equivalent to Microsoft Office Mobile. It comes with an email client. It comes with a web browser. It even comes with Real Player. So it comes with an Adobe Acrobat reader. But for having better battery life and a much more stable interface, the reason Symbian is not so popular here in the States is because Nokia is primarily a GSM manufacturer. They have hardly any. In fact, the only CDMA device that I'm aware of is the Nokia 7205 Intrigue on Verizon. Literally, unless you go to GSM, you will not find another Nokia device here in the States unless you get one unlocked. And again, in order to get unlocked, you have to go GSM unless you want to get a Sprint device, since Sprint doesn't have any Nokia phones. The reason they're mostly GSM is because, again, GSM is dominant in the rest of the world, much like Symbian is dominant in the rest of the world for smartphones. And because of this, it is much easier to manufacture for a GSM device, especially since here in the US with our CDMA devices, you can't get a device onto a network without going through the carrier. And I don't see Verizon offering any Symbian devices. So those are pretty much 4 alternatives to Windows Mobile. Again, iPhone OS, WebOS for Palm, Android, which again you will have 3 devices. You've got the HTC Lancaster and Palm EOS coming out for AT&T, and you've got the T-Mobile G1 for T-Mobile, and you've also got the T-Mobile MyTouch 3G for T-Mobile, also running Android. But those are 4 operating system alternatives to Windows Mobile. Definitely give them a look, especially if you're a Mac user. If you're a Mac user, I would highly recommend, if you're on AT&T and you're on a very strict budget, I would recommend looking at the E71X. Yes, it's a business-centric device, but I kid you not, I have not seen anything cheaper. $99 on contract, I have not seen that for a smartphone. So if you don't want a Windows Mobile device, the E71X is the cheapest I could see, unless you want the iPhone 3G, but then you won't have the video camera and whatnot, and that's stuff that you will get on the E71X. But those are alternatives to Windows Mobile, and I think they're definitely worth a look. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.